Now, we've heard in the past from Operators Without Borders, the Canadian-based charity which provides support to water utilities around the world. They are, not surprisingly, active in the Ukraine and have an interesting perspective on what is happening. So I recently spoke with their chair, Valerie Jenkinson.
Valerie, it is wonderful to speak again with you. It must be 6 months or so since we last connected. And on this special broadcast about what's happening in the Ukraine, I'd love to hear your experiences. What have you seen out there? What have you been doing? And what are you planning to do in the future? So let's start with, what have you seen? What's happening on the ground?
Well, I'm just so grateful that you're doing this, Piers, because one of the heart-wrenching moments for me not long ago was when I was talking to some of my colleagues in Ukraine, and they asked me, has the West forgotten us? And it broke my heart. And I assured them that we haven't forgotten them. But they are dealing with such difficult situations right now. Last year, what we saw was the Russians were targeting electrical facilities, which impacts water, but not directly. This year, the Russians are targeting specifically the water and wastewater utilities. And the guys are going out there and they're repairing as they get bombed. But they can only go out for 15 minutes at a time because of the drones. So the drones come in, and if they pick them up, they can then send in the bombs to bomb our workers. And there has been a lot of loss of life.
And there's nothing you can do in 15 minutes. That's just mad. You can't dig a hole, fix that. And let's be clear, bombing the critical infrastructure that serves the civilian population is a war crime. All right.
Exactly.
It's horrific, but it's useful to have it confirmed. Now let's talk about what sorts of things have you been doing?
Well, we have been very active. As you know, we don't send people into Ukraine, but we work virtually or out of Poland. So we have trained about 400, 500 people in incident command, emergency response. We've done CBRN training. We are doing a project.
And I need you to pause there. What's CBRN training?
The chemical, biological, radioactive, and nuclear contamination of water supplies.
Of course it is. Which is not something I assume people are. It's not part of your standard training package when you're working.
No, we put this together along with some people from WHO and with the WASH cluster. And it was something that this was happening all the time in Ukraine. And yet they didn't know how to deal with it. And I asked them, has this training been any of use? And they told me, my God, we're using it all over the place, including where the dam was broken up. And there's a lot of contamination of the water there.
I interrupted you. You were reeling off a list of things, and I rudely interrupted you. Carry on with your list of things you're doing.
We're doing a project. They need to revitalize some of their lagoons because so many of them are out of operation. So we're working with them to show them how to do that. And they've now got a contractor that we're working with. We're doing a program on trenching safety because that's another big thing that probably wasn't happening properly before the war, but certainly now it's even more pronounced. We are delivering a program, a workshop for them on water quality safety. And this is going to be a train the trainer. So we have one of our volunteers who's a world expert in this, is going to train 5 or 6 of their people, and then they can go forward and take it to other parts.
It can cascade out. That's wonderful. That's brilliant. Well, I never doubted it for a minute, Valerie. I knew you'd be busy stirring things up and making a change and an impact. I have to ask, what next? What's 2025 look like? Have you got a program of activities that you want to do?
Well, we have plans, and perhaps a little bit more than a concept of a plan, but it rather depends on the war. We're waiting to hear from them on the technical training. We've provided 70 technical training courses that we can offer free of charge. And also they want to do a lot more of the incident command recovery safety programs. So for those things, we have to raise money because everything has to be translated, and we have to hire simultaneous translation to do these workshops. So we're going to need, $30,000 to $50,000 like we did before. So we've got a lot of plans, and depending on when we hear back from them, because sometimes it's quite a while before we hear back because they're in war. So they don't get back to you, like the next couple of hours. So those are the plans that we have for 2025.
So in summary, Operators Without Borders have already trained over 500 people in incident command system disaster recovery. They have held CBRN workshops, undertaken trenching safety training, and delivered a water quality Train the Trainer safety programme, with plans for much more in 2025. If you were struck by what Valerie shared and feel a desire to get involved, then what they need right now are volunteers, in particular from Europe, volunteers who can help with the training. They also need sponsorship to cover the travel and to fund the simultaneous translation services. It's a great charity doing much needed work.